What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Today we have our usual crew, no guests. So we have the great Marco Romo to my right, Ariel to my southeast, and myself, Gabriel Cartagena. So, fellas, how we doing tonight before the NBA Finals? Finally, the end of the season.
Great, excited, man. Like, I don't really know who expected these two teams to be in the finals here, but man, I'm happy it's these two teams. If the Heat can't be there, I think we get a really good series. I hope Giannis is good to go, and the eve of the finals just means that we're a little bit closer to all the offseason stuff, which I know a lot of our Heat listener base is looking forward to. So I'm excited to get it underway.
I'm hyped too, man. That Italy-Spain game, for some reason, got me more hyped. I don't know. Soccer just gets me in the mood for sports. Shout out to all my Italians. I think I have some heritage. My name's Marco Roma, whatever. I'm excited for the basketball. Like, the finals are my favorite part of the season outside of the opening day. So this is like Christmas to me.
Yeah, it's a really good matchup too, right? Like, save for Giannis's injury, which really, I think, put a damper on things. But it looks like he's going to at least have a chance to be some semblance of himself throughout this series. He's questionable to play tonight. I think he's warming up as we speak. And, I mean, two of probably the most healthy teams being able to play against one another. It's pretty exciting seeing the Suns, obviously, in this light because they've been a great team the entire year. With or without the injuries, they've been fantastic. And you see the Bucks, who are a team that they built themselves up to being a juggernaut going into the playoffs. And they may have faltered a little bit against Brooklyn due to coaching and bad decisions, whatever it may be. But they figured things out, and then ultimately they've gotten to where they are now. So I think both teams that are here are ultimately very deserving based upon the circumstances. I'm happy with the teams that we have inside the finals. Shout out Lynette with this comment. I don't think the Heat should feel so bad now. The Bucks were a really good team. They were. And, I mean, the Heat got absolutely outclassed, and maybe that'll end up being a positive moving forward because they'll definitely make moves. But let's talk about the injury. Because the injury is the biggest question mark in this series. We can talk about the X's and O's, but if a two-time MVP, one-time DPOY, on track to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best starts to a career we've ever seen in Giannis, if he's not able to play in this team, and he's primarily the engine of this Bucks team, do the Bucks even have a chance in this series, say, if Giannis actually is not able to play? Marco, we'll start with you.
I give him a puncher's chance if it's without Giannis for the entire series. It's a little different story. For just like a game, yeah, I'll give him a chance. But if it's for the whole series, it gets like way harder. And you saw how Trae Young was when he came back, how rusty he looked and how long it's going to take for him to get into the groove again. Like James Harden, we just got done with that too. Like, these guys take a while to get back into a rhythm, and they need to understand what their bodies are capable of, or else they'll overextend themselves and cause even more injuries. And that's the thing that they're worried about in the back of their minds. So I think Giannis at like 70%, I definitely give the edge to the Suns. I still give the Bucks a chance though. Like that would go, to me, that goes at least 6 games. We'll get into our predictions later. Might have a spicy take for that. But if Giannis isn't at least 90% and he's out there kind of, I think, mucking up what the Bucks were doing against the Hawks, it can be a little Ewing theory-esque. Not too much to the extent that they'll win the series without him, because I don't think that's happening. But it changes a lot of what they do. They go to Brook Lopez a lot more when he's not out there. And that game plan changes way more. He's out there handling the ball all the time when he's out there. So if he's the guy that's handling the ball, that means less chances for Drew Holiday, who was pretty big for them against the Hawks. So it changes a lot. And it changes a lot of what the Suns have to do, because they're game planning for, I'm guessing they're game planning for both Giannis and without Giannis. And whichever team that comes out for the Suns, I think they're going to be prepared for both, because Monty Williams is like a really good coach, and he had them prepared for the Lakers with or without Anthony Davis. So I think that helped them. That's going to help them in this series as well.
My bad, I was muted. Yeah, I think I'm with you, Marco. Like, I think that we don't need to go over how impactful of a player Giannis Antetokounmpo is, right? Like, everybody knows what Giannis is. I just think that, even if he is able to play, which I just get the feeling that at some point in the series, it might even be game one for all I know. Like, we don't know yet. I don't know if there's been an official update I think he's still a game time decision last I saw. Even if he's able to play, though, I think we're fair to assume that it's unlikely that he's at 100%, right? And he's the kind of player that, we saw James Harden come back in that Brooklyn series and be largely, a shell of himself, not all that effective. And James Harden is more of a skill player than Giannis Antetokounmpo is, right? Like, he's a really good shooter. He can do some stuff without necessarily needing the bounce and whatnot. He can still provide some level of effectiveness. Whereas with Giannis, like, you can't really relegate him to a spot up shooter, right? It's if he's limited in any capacity, I don't want to say that it hurts the Bucks, but I don't know how much it's really worth it to roll him out there. Now, it's his first NBA Finals. The Bucks haven't been there in a very, very long time, right? So I think I think he does end up playing. I think he has to play. And even if he doesn't, like, I don't think the Bucks win this series without him, for sure, right? But their lineup, the Drew, Chris, the Drew, Chris, PJ, Lopez, Bobby Portis lineup, I think it was, that was really good for them towards the latter stages of the Atlanta series. That lineup was phenomenal for them. Bobby Portis played, pretty well above what he generally plays at. So I do think that, Chris can get a shot off against anybody. He can get hot in any game. Drew Holiday is as capable a two-way defender and perimeter player as there is in the league. So I think they can steal a game if Giannis were to miss the whole series, which I don't think is happening. But big picture, no, they can't win this series without Giannis. It's a huge blow if he's missing more than even a game, heck.
Yeah, I totally agree. Without Giannis, you're not winning the series. Not even because of what he brings offensively, where obviously he's a force on the interior. I think defensively, just the coverages that you can throw with Giannis on the floor are so different as opposed to the coverages that you can throw with Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis on the floor. It completely takes away all the versatility with the lineups that they have. And I mean, Giannis is the key. Like, he's one of those players similar to AD where you put Giannis at the 5, and that is the adjustment that you can make at any given time in any game, and it makes a huge difference. So it's going to be a tough series for the Bucks regardless because of the reasons that you guys said, Giannis not being 100%. I want to get into some keys here because there still is ways that both the Bucks or the Suns can win this series. Before we get into these keys, actually, I want to throw a crazy stat out here because there's a lot going on with this Bucks team. This one focuses primarily on the Bucks. So the Bucks this year are shooting 31.1% on 36.3 three-point attempts per game in the playoffs. And that's over 17 games, so it's a pretty decent sample size. Guess the last year a team that made the finals shot this poorly in an entire playoffs.
I think I saw this stat, but I have no idea. Like, I don't remember. I think I saw somebody mention how the Bucks were shooting, historically poorly heading into the finals.
It's bad.
And they had said that there was another team that was also, I just don't remember who the team was. I can't even take a stab at it.
I mean, the Lakers last year were a pretty bad shooting team in the regular season, but I think
but in the playoffs they were pretty solid.
Right.
But, man, I think you might have to go back to like the Nets or something.
Well, the Nets would be one of them, but they're not actually. So the 01-02 Nets are the worst team from three since the 2000s, where they shot 28.5% on, this is just a crazy number, 14.6 three-point attempts a game.
Wow.
That was as a team. They made the finals. They got swept, but that was a team shooting that many threes. But you actually have to go all the way back to the 03-04 Pistons, who shot 30.4% on 13.9 three-point attempts a game. Wow. So the Bucks are shooting almost 3 times as many threes, and they're shooting a similar percentage. So that tells me, one, the Bucks can regress positively, but at this point it's a 17-game sample size. I think they have to change the kind of shots that they are taking. And if you look at their star trio, they're Middleton, Drew, Giannis, they are shooting, they're shooting virtually double the amount of pull-up shots that they were shooting in the regular season. And they're shooting at a significantly worse clip. Giannis is shooting 29% from pull-ups, 18% from three. Drew, 34%, 29% from three. Chris, 38.5%, 30% from three. The pull-up shooting that they are using is literally hindering their entire offense. So if they're, even without Giannis, if they're able to get away from that pull-up shooting, I think that's one of the major keys. If you're able to get your drive and kick game going, which hinges primarily on Drew Holiday, with Giannis being compromised a little bit, if Drew Holiday is able to drive and kick and hit guys, whoever it may be, because pretty much anybody on this team can shoot, I think that makes a huge difference for the Bucks because they're going to need the three ball to keep up with the Suns. I think they have to hit shots in this series to be in this series.
I think that also says a lot of what the teams they played have been giving them. They've been a lot of the teams they played have been just single covering Giannis, not a lot of help. So those driving kicks for Giannis aren't really there, and they're staying home on the good shooters and not staying home on the good shooters. They're closing out on the good shooters, and they're staying home on like PJ Tucker. They're living with his shot attempts because he was pretty down this year from three. As opposed to his whole career, he's been a solid corner guy. They're willing to give up that shot to him and Brook Lopez, who's also quietly not actually been that good at shooters since that 1 year. So it's also the teams are giving them the threes that they want to give.
Do we want to get into X factors for this series?
I mean, sure. X factors are keys. It's a synonym, I guess. So by all means, give me an X factor.
So I've got two. I'm going to save one, and if one of y'all don't bring it up, then I'll bring it back up afterwards. So I'm going to go with how Phoenix does in those intermediary areas, because in the two matchups against Milwaukee this season, Phoenix won both games by a point each, if I remember correctly. Phoenix shot 44% of their total field goal attempts between the restricted area and the three-point line. So essentially mid-range shots. That was the highest rate for any Milwaukee opponent this season. And the Suns connected on 51% of those attempts, which is a really good number to shoot from there. Now, I don't think that the Suns want to be shooting everything from the mid-range. I looked into their statistical profile in terms of the types of shots they're taking in the playoffs. 45% of Phoenix's shots are coming in the paint, on which they're shooting 67% from the field.
That's 80 right there.
Right. 35% of their total field goals come from three, and 20% of their field goals are coming from mid-range. That number, like I had mentioned, against Milwaukee in the regular season was substantially higher. The reason being that a lot of the time the Bucks are dropping. Now I know that they've, gone to a more switch-heavy defensive, aggressive defense and that kind of strategy, but in any possession where they're going to be dropping on the pick and roll, Phoenix, their guards, more specifically Devin Booker and Chris Paul, need to attack those intermediary areas coming off the screen. If Brooks playing off them at all, that's a pull-up midi. Those guys are really good at that, and that's where they need to take advantage of that matchup.
Yeah, I think playing against Trae Young is actually going to benefit the Bucks a little bit here because they have experience, and you have to bring Brook Lopez up higher. You can't have him just sitting back in the paint the same way that he was earlier on in the playoffs, specifically against Miami Heat, because they didn't have pull-up shooting. They didn't have anybody that could punish them in that area. So if Brook Lopez comes up a little bit higher, yes, you have to have someone that can stay with Ayton a little bit. That's why I think Giannis's help defense is huge because he can almost single-handedly cover the corner and cover DeAndre Ayton on the lob threat. Like, that's where Giannis is special. And if Giannis, he doesn't even need to be 100%, just the length being there, I think has a huge impact on it. But you said 20% of the shots that the Suns are taking are mid-range in the playoffs?
Yeah, 20% of their total field goal attempts come from the mid-range, and they're shooting 42% on those field goals.
Wow. So that's probably exclusively just Booker and CP3 taking those shots, save for like 2 Ayton mid-range a game or something. But that's good coaching. You like mid-range is effective when you have the right guys taking the shot. The problem is you don't want Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder taking it when they're better at above the break or corner threes. So
right.
That's a very interesting number that you found there. I definitely agree with that. Marco, welcome back. I guess your Wi-Fi just timed out momentarily, but give me an X factor here.
I like that number that Ariel was looking at because I was looking at Mikal Bridges' shooting last series, which was actually pretty bad, which was surprising to me because he was pretty solid in the first 2 rounds. And I think he's pretty much the X factor for me. Like, if they're going to play off of Devin Booker or Chris Paul at all, and they're going to leave the corners open for him, Cam Johnson, Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder, I think Mikal's going to get the most of those looks, depending on who the Bucks put out there. Pat Connaughton, who they're going to put him on if he plays at all, or PJ Tucker especially, because I think he's going to spend most of his time on Devin Booker. So Mikal's going to get a lot of shots, and especially if they're going to help at the nail on Devin Booker, because Devin's way faster than PJ, and he should be able to lose him. He's going to feel really good about not having Patrick Beverley on him, because Patrick Beverley, for as messy as he is, he's really good at navigating screens. He's the best Clipper at navigating screens, even better than Kawhi Leonard is. And Devin's going to love not having him out there. PJ Tucker is slower, but he's still rough. He can beat Devin Booker up. I think he's going to beat him to the rim a lot, and I think that's going to be the first adjustment to my prediction. But I still think that Mikal's going to have to pick up a lot of the role players scoring, and I think he can. He showed a lot of off the dribble stuff this year, and against the Nuggets even, that I didn't even know he had. And I really like that. I want him to do that more, especially if they're going to put slower guys on him eventually, which I think they will. And I think he has to take advantage of that. Overall, I think it'll be a star showcase, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, but Mikal Bridges is like the guy that I look at. It's going to be like the barometer of this whole series.
So you have PJ Tucker on Booker. I would assume that means you have Drew on CP3 in that scenario?
Yeah. At the start.
At the start. Okay.
I think they're eventually going to take PJ off of him. Like, I think he's going to roast him.
I don't think Booker, with all due respect to PJ Tucker, I don't think Booker can really hang with him. PJ Tucker can annoy him maybe, but I don't know if that's really going to work. Who would you guys think Middleton would start out on, at least in game one?
So I think Marco makes really good points. I would, for the reasons you just mentioned, Gad, I think we talked about this on the Twitter Spaces the other night. Like, I don't love the idea of putting PJ on Booker in space. Like, the foot speed and just the first step of Devin Booker is going to be tremendously problematic for PJ, and it's going to force the Bucks defense into all kinds of rotation, which is going to scramble the defense, and Booker might be able to find the open guys. So to me, I'm putting Chris Middleton on him. I just think Chris, the length, he's not quite as quick as Book, but like, he can hang with him on the perimeter a little bit. I think he's their best option at the very least to put on Devin Booker. So I'd go Chris on Book and Drew on CP3. I think, CP3 being the high pick and roll usage guard that he is, like, you're going to need a guard that can navigate screens, right? Unless you're switching everything. And so I think Drew is pretty good at navigating screens. And to me, he feels like the guy that you want to put on Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think oh no, Marco.
The danger with that is, like, you're gonna tire out Chris Middleton because he hasn't had this kind of like assignment in the playoffs at all. So this is going to be his first time kind of pulling double duty if you do that. And I think that's probably where they're going to be careful.
Hey, it's the finals though.
It is, but at the same time, he's your primary engine of offense. Like, he's your primary shot creator. If Chris is able to do that, then I would like to be the first to congratulate him if he wins on his finals MVP, because that would be a feat. If he's able to go head-to-head with Devin Booker, guarding him, simultaneously giving him buckets on the other end, like, that would be crazy for Chris Middleton. I just think you wish they could clone Drew Holiday and just have two of them out there, because he's the perfect guy to guard either Booker or CP3. Like, he hounds guards the same way that Booker does not like to be played by Patrick Beverley. And at the same time, he's great at getting over those screens and really changing the angle and the direction of the ball handler, like you want to try to do against CP3. But I think CP3 just plays at his own pace, so Drew would be less effective on him. I want to see it. I think we will see it to start. But I think Drew, by the end of this series, or whenever the Bucks make an adjustment, I don't think it'll be what they start out in, but whenever the Bucks make an adjustment, assuming Giannis is healthy, by that point in the series, assume like game 3-ish, I think Drew's going to be taking on Booker, and you probably have Giannis just helping off of whoever it is that is guarding CP3, because whoever it is probably going to need help. Like, I don't think Chris Paul is a one-man assignment, and if you can at least try to turn CP3 into more of a scorer as opposed to a creator for the entire offense, then that is one way that you can try to limit CP3, because he can give you 20 and 10 or he can give you 30 and 6, and you have to decide which one is probably better for you. But let's get into another X factor here. Ariel, give me another X factor.
Another X factor. Oh, excellent. Monty Williams versus Mike Budenholzer. Like, just has to be, right? I mean, my question is, in this series for the Bucks, can Bud stick with the aggressive switching that Milwaukee used against Atlanta? Because, like, it's one thing when, you're switching Brook Lopez, which is, again, the one guy on the court you probably want to switch the least. But there were possessions where he switched out to, like, Kevin Huerter or whatever. And it's one thing to switch on to Kevin Huerter. It's a whole other thing to be involved in a 1-5 or a 2-5 pick and roll, and you're switching out onto Chris Paul or Devin Booker. So I wonder, how much are they able to continue to, switch everything and be aggressive with it? And how good or how effectively can the Suns guards hunt those switches and hunt the matchups that they want? And then on the other side, Monty Williams has been like amazing drawing after timeout plays in the playoffs, right? But Milwaukee during the regular season has, I have the stat here, the third best points per possession defense after timeout in the NBA. So that's going to be a really interesting wrinkle to this series, or how effectively are the Suns able to score after timeout?
Definitely. That's a fantastic stat. I think that could probably be attributed to just how long Milwaukee is, because when they want to, like, they have wingspan, they have strength, athleticism, all that good stuff.
They're huge.
When you let that get set up, I mean, it's so hard to penetrate that, because it's hard for those mental mishaps to happen after a timeout. They do happen at times, and Monty Williams is great at figuring those out, but it's very difficult for that to happen. So, I mean, that if the Bucks are able to win the after timeout scenarios, I think that'll definitely help. But I feel like anytime the game slows down, it's probably not great for the Bucks.
You saw the last few series, they like resort to isolation, which is not what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You telling me you don't like Drew Holiday pull up threes, step back threes?
Marco
need to stop that. Yeah,
Painful.
big fan.
It's like 6 times a game now. Well, actually, to be fair, it's 4 times a game, 7.3 times a game as a whole from the field, and it's not pretty. He was only taking 5 in the regular season.
What's he shooting on those?
34.7% on 7.3 attempts.
It's like Tyler Hero's 3-point percentage.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, it's not the prettiest thing. I'll actually get into an X factor here. I think this one's primarily for the Suns, which is weird because they have campaign, but I think Dario Saric against Bobby Portis could end up becoming a huge mismatch for the Suns. I think the Suns really, really are going to need to help out Saric, because Bobby Portis is a guy where he's probably a lot more capable than people give him credit for offensively, and then Saric doesn't really put that much strain on you defensively. So if Bobby Portis is able to have similar minutes to DeMarcus Cousins, I think he's probably better than DeMarcus Cousins as a player right now. Maybe not in post-isolation, but you get the point. Bobby Portis can definitely make an impact on the series, probably more than the Suns would like. And if he's able to win those minutes against Saric, then the bench minutes are probably going to be at least neutral or in favor of the Bucks. And in that case, the Bucks bench showing up would be a huge advantage for the Suns, because I think the Suns have the better bench, but they need to win those minutes. They can't let Dario Saric squander those because of Bobby Portis. It just can't happen.
I don't really think you're going to see much of the benches at all in like this series, because that's the way the finals goes. Like, guys are going to play 40 plus every night. Those short bursts, I guess I see your point with Bobby Portis. If the Bucks are going to go through Bobby, I think the Suns are probably fine with that. The same way they were fine with DeMarcus Cousins being out there. The difference is Bobby is probably a lot better than Boogie is at this point. I mean, I am at this point. He can't move his feet. I think if they play Jeff Teague, the Bucks,
that can't. If Jeff Teague suits up tonight,
if he's out there, I'm walking out of my house.
I'm putting money on the Suns immediately. I don't care if they're up by 30 at that point. I'll live bet the Suns. You can't play Jeff Teague in this series. Like, who realistically comes off the Bucks bench in this series? Is it Portis? Some Forbes?
Is Giannis available in this exercise, or?
We're probably going to get an update soon, but I'm going to assume that Giannis at some point will be available throughout the series. So let's assume he's at least available. Maybe not 100%, but he's available. He's probably playing 30-plus minutes.
Right. Portis Connaughton. I don't want
Forbes.
it. Yeah, Forbes, and then I think you just keep it at 8. You keep the rotation at 8. You sub out Brook, and then you alternate him, PJ, and Giannis at the 5. Bobby Portis.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they'll probably be 8 deep. And what about the Suns? They're playing. I mean, Cam Johnson has to play. I don't know if he's been. I don't think he's been starting. Cam Johnson has to play. He's obviously a really good 3-and-D. He's going to be very valuable in this series. Campaign, he'll get minutes whenever CP3 is not on the floor. Book, whatever it may be. Torrey Craig, I think, can hold his own in this series. Low-key Torrey Craig revenge series. That'll be fun to watch. He's been playing much better than people give him credit for. He's been playing well.
And he guaranteed himself a championship.
I hate that. He didn't earn anything by playing for the Bucks. Giannis is on the floor beginning pregame work. A decision will be made after his warm-up routine. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully Giannis is able to play. I really, really, really want to see this series as close to 100% as possible. It'll just make me much, much happier because this really, on paper, should be a fantastic series. But I could see it swaying in one direction, whether it's injury or coaching or mid-range shooting, whatever it may be. I think there definitely is a team that is favored here. But so we have how many people coming off of the Suns bench? 3?
4.
Saric?
Yeah, 4 maybe Saric. Depends on who the Bucks play. I think Saric might actually not play.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wonder how much they go through Brook Lopez offensively, especially if Giannis doesn't play, because obviously Ayton's a good defender, but people really underestimate Brook Lopez as a scorer. I feel like it's always happened, but whenever they chose to give him good volume and he chooses to not camp out in the corner, Brook Lopez can give you 20.
He used to be that guy. He used to average 18, 20 a game. I mean, He was a dominant – I don't know if I want to say dominant, but he was a really good post player who's extended his range and become, primarily much more of just a three-point shooter at this stage in his career. But he still has those moves. He still has that ability to get you buckets. So if Giannis is out, it's big time on him, Chris, and Drew to carry a lot of that offensive load for sure. And you're right. People do underestimate Brook Lopez. He can still give you 20, 25. We saw him drop, 30-something?
Yeah. Him and Portis combined for almost 60 points the other night, which was it was really, really funny. And, I mean, a great way for them to go out in that series. I do wonder – well, I think he is the type of guy that is going to have to step up in the event that Giannis is not 100%, which is highly likely at this point, at least for 1 or 2 games. I think Brook Lopez is capable of doing that. I think maybe you get a Bobby Portis game sprinkled in there, but it's really going to have to be Drew and Middleton creating for the rest of these role players. I think that's really what it's going to come down to.
Would either of you, I have the number in front of me, would you guys like to take a guess as to how many points in the paint Giannis is averaging in these playoffs?
In these playoffs, 22?
It's a good guess. What about you, Marco?
24.
Wow. I thought you would both go under. He's averaging 20 points per game in the paint in these playoffs, and that is the highest number since Shaq averaged 21.6 20 years ago in 2001 when the game was played below the three-point line. It's a huge loss.
And he's still taking 7.1 pull-up jumpers a game.
That needs to never be. That needs to not be a part of his game right now.
It's terrible.
It's not there.
So let's get into another X factor. Give me an X factor for Milwaukee. What's another thing that Milwaukee can do?
I was actually going to give you an overall 2 factor for the two teams.
Hit me.
The Lopez and Ayton matchup, I'm very interested in. I think because the both teams actually are number 1 and number 2 in terms of field goal percentage in the paint, which tells you how good Ayton and Brook Lopez have been, and also the perimeter guys at funneling them to there. I'll be very interested to see how Ayton responds to Brook Lopez's physicality and how he kind of pushes guys off their spots, which is a thing that Brook Lopez has always been underrated at, is he doesn't let you get comfortable down there. You just ask any player on the Heat about that. I think Ayton has the touch to score on Brook. I don't think if they ever post up Ayton on Brook, more than, let's say, 5 times a game, I think that's a win for the Bucks because
Mm-hmm.
they want the offense to go through Ayton. I think you want to sprinkle it in as much as you can throughout here and there. You don't want it to be the main focus of your offense, which is the same thing goes for the Bucks. I guess it goes without saying. I'm very interested to see how they both respond to the type of offenses that they're going to get thrown at them, because this is the first time Aiton's going to have to deal with a team that I guess really has one guy that can get to the rim at will. Well, he had to deal with LeBron, but it wasn't the same LeBron, that we're used to. He wasn't getting to the paint. So this is like the first team that he's really going to have to deal with that, going to have to like defer guys away. I guess you could put Paul George there, but Paul George isn't really that type of guy either. So this is I'm really interested to see how Ayton responds to that and how Brook Lopez, I guess, responds again, because he only had about 3 games to deal with KD and Kyrie coming off of those screens and having to play a drop or playing to the level of the screen like he did that series. Like I said before, the guys on the Bucks aren't going to have that luxury to where they can help off of the guy anymore, because Chris Paul is going to be the guy they're helping off of. So they're not going to be able to leave guys like Devin Booker to hit the mid-range shot so freely. And I'm very interested to see how Brook responds, because I think the Nets probably win that series. I think we all think they win that series if Kyrie doesn't go down. And I think Brook's like, he's going to try to prove that it wasn't just a fluke, that game was, or that whole series, that, I was the second best player on the Bucks that whole series. I really love the kind of chess matches that go on between teams like that, how they kind of scheme around the center or the big man. Miami didn't have much luck, so I'm very interested to see how both these teams do.
Ariel, I thought you were going to say something there. Swayed me in the wrong direction.
You guys see me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was frozen. My bad.
But no, I'm very intrigued to see this Lopez versus Ayton matchup. You haven't seen too many people try to test Brook Lopez inside the paint, and DeAndre Ayton is most definitely going to try to do that. But like you said, if the Bucks are able to get DeAndre Ayton's post touches up, I think that actually is a really good thing for the Bucks, because you want to keep the ball out of Booker and CP3's hands, and they also have plenty of good shooters to go around. So if they're able to funnel attempts at the rim for Ayton that aren't just rim runs where Brook Lopez is trying to play 2 guys at once, that is absolutely a win for the Bucks. And if they're able to mitigate, it's going to be very interesting, because you haven't seen many teams that have the length and size that the Bucks have 1 through 5. When they want to, they have so much of it that in passing lanes, rim running, all that good stuff that DeAndre Ayton is normally really good at deciding when to cut, when to dive to the rim and whatnot. It's going to be the margin for error is going to be ever so slight in this series. So if Ayton is able to capitalize on that, I mean, he's already off to a great start for his career, but this series, I think, poses a tough matchup for him, and him being able to overcome that I would be thoroughly impressed if DeAndre Ayton was able to keep up what he's been doing throughout the entire playoffs in this series. I expect him to take a little bit of a dip, but then again, he's playing with CP3, and CP3 makes every single big man's life much, much, much easier.
While we're doing the whole, the matchup of the big men, like, it got me thinking about just what's going to go on the boards in this series, right? Because like we had mentioned, the Bucks are huge and they crash the boards, and this is where I'm especially interested to see what happens with Giannis, because in the playoffs, the Bucks' offensive rebound percentage, which is the percentage of available offensive rebounds that they are collecting per game, is 31%. It's tremendously high. It's like absurdly high.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So if
Dwayne
Giannis...
Dedmon numbers.
Seriously.
That's right. It's like they got 5 Dwayne Dedmons out there. So with, if Giannis is not able to go, I would imagine that number goes down. It's going to be especially important to, for the Suns to have everybody crash the boards, because this is how the Bucks have been able to advance this far while shooting so poorly from 3, right? Like, they've shot atrociously bad from 3. The reason they've gotten this far in large part is that they're getting more total attempts because they are rebounding at such an effective level. So that's going to be huge in this series. If Giannis is out, I'm interested to see how that changes.
I think that's kind of like a a thing that coaches play with, though. Like, that's in the back of their minds. If they crash the boards, they might give up a lot of like fast break opportunities, which is what the Bucks kind of thrive in, and what the Hawks let them win at. And that's why the Hawks, they didn't walk that line very well. They gave up the offensive rebounds and the fast break points. So you don't want to do both of those. I think the Suns are going to be probably wary of that. I hope they would be, at least. I think they might crash the boards, but I think they'll be conservatively at best, because I think the fast break is probably the thing they have to worry about the most.
Yeah, fast break. I mean, if the Bucks get out in transition, good luck. And then if they're getting offensive boards, good luck. The third part of the puzzle that they have not had going is three-point shot. If the Bucks are able to get back to where they were in the regular season, I think they were around like a 38%, 39% three-point shooting team. Then they're very, very, very scary. But we're coming to a close here. Let's get some predictions, because obviously we need to say some things that we can come back and look on to make us either look like geniuses or look like idiots. So, Ariel, we'll start with you. Your predictions on the series.
So I'm going to operate under the assumption that we will see Giannis at some point in this series. If it's any time before game 3, I think I'm going to go with the Suns in 6. I think the Bucks are capable of getting a couple games with or without Giannis, but I'm assuming that Giannis plays more of the games in this series than he misses. And even if that is the case, I think that these teams are pretty evenly matched. The shot profile, I was looking into it earlier, is very similar for both teams. Mm-hmm. And I think that this series is going to be made up of a lot of close games, and it's going to come down to a lot of the final minutes of these games. And in those situations, I'm rolling with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I just feel like it's their year. It's their time. They've been really good in those situations, and I think that they get this done. I think the Suns win in 6.
Okay. Respect that, most definitely. Marco.
All right, I said I had a hot take for this one. I think the Suns are going to win.
Was that by design, Marco? You need to repeat what you just said.
Yeah, you got to repeat the prediction.
And the suspense is killing me.
I think this is a sign that I'm going to go full out. It's going to be Suns in 4. There.
Oh, I love it.
All right. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like this is Chris Paul's moment. This is his Dirk Nowitzki 2011 moment. And I think he's going to take it by the throat, and he's going to suffocate the Bucks out of it. I don't trust the Giannis injury stuff. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels like it's going to be a lot trickier than I think most people are making it out to be. It's going to take at least 3 games for him to even get back into the groove of the whole series. He might come back and there might be down 2-1 if they're lucky, because I'm going sweep. I'm going to look like a genius. That's where I'm going with this. And I also feel like the shooting, eventually the story that is in front of you is the story that you're going to get, and it's not going to get any better. So I think the Bucks shooting is probably where it's at for a reason. I don't think there's nowhere else to go but up. But I just think the shooting isn't going to be there, because it hasn't been there for not just this series, for the past 2 playoffs where they've struggled from 3.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with the Suns. I think they'll have the better game plan and everything. I liked everything else besides the Giannis stuff. I think they're going to win in 4. I'm going with it mostly because I want to go on vacation and not have to, get up 3 a.m.
Well, this is true. That's a completely valid point. So I've been going back and forth with this. I said last week, assuming both teams were healthy, I would actually go with the Bucks in the series. But there has been changing of the tides with Giannis' injury. I don't see him getting back to the same explosive player that he's been. Like, a hyperextended knee isn't something that'll probably keep him out for the series, but he's probably dealing with some bone bruising or some slight ligament sprains that are going to keep him from moving the way that he wants to. And like you guys said earlier with the James Harden thing, I forgot which one you made that point, but it was a fantastic point. If he's not as skilled, it is going to be much harder, especially when you look at the guys that the Suns have. Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson is very, very long. DeAndre Ayton, like Ayton at the rim especially, that is going – they have the recipe to build that metaphorical wall, and that is something that I think will still be able to stop the Bucks, and they haven't really seen that throughout these playoffs. They haven't. They had Trevor Ariza going at him, and then they had Jeff Green, some KD, a little bit. And then last series, you were just throwing anybody that the Bucks could possibly, or the Hawks could possibly throw at Giannis, mainly Capella, who is, not to disrespect him or anything, but I think he's very, very overrated in terms of rim protection. He doesn't really do what it is that you need to do. I think DeAndre Ayton is that guy when it comes to rim protection. I think he is much, much better than people give him credit for in that area. I wanted to say Suns in 6, but Scott Foster is supposed to be officiating Suns in 6. Or game 6, so it can't be Suns in 6 because Scott Foster just doesn't let Chris Paul win. And I wanted to say Suns in 7 because I want to see a game 7 for NBA's sake. I think Chris Paul being able to have that moment where he capitalizes at the end of a game, have a dagger in front of his fans in game 7 would be fantastic. I'm going to go Suns in 5. I think the Suns win one of these first 2 games, and then they win the next 3. I don't know if it's going to be tonight, and then they win 4 in a row, if they're going to win game 2. But I think they are going to win the series. This is Chris Paul's swan song. It's going to be a beautiful start to a run that the Suns might be on over the next few years because this team is probably not going to get much worse than they are right now. I know Chris Paul's getting older, but they're young, and they are really, really talented and fun to watch.
Man, he's got Suns in 6. Is
that
what that is?
Bucks in 6?
No, it's Suns in 6.
What's wrong with you, man? Shit.
You got no
take you off this, man. By the way, I think Marco brought up a great I guess kind of like a mirror type of situation with the Dirk Nowitzki thing. I know it like it still hurts me up to this day. But to see where Chris Paul has had, what a career he's had, and listen, I'm 33. I remember him being a rookie.
Yeah.
It seems like it's been too long for this moment, but I think that everything has fallen his way. 2 series clinching, unbelievable performances by him. Oh, hold on. Sorry. 2 series clinching, unbelievable performances by him leading up to this point. I don't think nothing stops this Suns team unless, I don't know, right? Because it's not like the Bucks, without Giannis, there's questions. You lose Chris Paul, you still got Booker. You lose Booker, you still got Chris Paul. So it's just those things that I think those specific players in these moments, especially in the finals, is when you see that, it doesn't really matter really if a team is playing great 5-on-5, it's the superstars that now count. Is your superstar going to, say, give me the ball when down 1? This is when the moments are made. And I think the Suns, to me, with the leadership that Chris Paul has shown and done basically at his age and scoring all those points in series clinching performances, that to me shows this has to be his year. If it's not, Jesus, I don't know what he's done to the basketball guys.
Well, if it's not, it's probably going to be his own doing, if I'm being completely honest. But last predictions here. If the Suns are to win, who wins Finals MVP?
Booker.
Ooh, all right. Booker's taking. I'll go Chris Paul. No.
Yeah, I'm going CP3. In there. I'm going CP3. If the Bucks are to win this series, who wins Finals MVP?
Chris Middleton.
I think I go Giannis. If he comes back, it's going to be because of him.
Interesting. I think if Drew Holiday is going to be on Devin Booker, if they're going to win, he's going to need to do his job and almost take Booker out of the series. And then he's also going to have to show up offensively. If he's able to match Chris Paul's stats while winning this series and guarding Booker, I think it might be Drew Holiday, which is crazy because I've been on Drew Holiday's ass the entire playoffs for taking so many pull-up jumpers. But maybe he'll turn it around and stop doing that stupid stuff. So, with all that being said, we got about an hour 15 until the NBA Finals. Manny's got somewhere to be. I probably got a movie to watch or something. Thank you guys in the comments for showing out. It was great listening to you guys today. Any last words? Last word, Ariel.
Go Suns.
Marco?
Jay Crowder, Finals MVP.
Good luck, Jay. Good luck. Play the video, Manny.